Hi, this is Celeste, and this is the Celestial Report. And today is interview day, and I have my good friend, Dr. Michael Christian from Australia, with me. And we are going to go deep into the space time continuum. And Dr. Michael Christian is an ophthalmologist in Australia, but he's not your average ophthalmologist. He is absolutely fantastic what he can do with lenses and prisms and all this type of the equipment that he has. So, welcome, Michael.
Celeste, thank you very much. And look, to be a little pedantic, it's optometrist rather than ophthalmologist. It doesn't matter, but the important thing is, no, thank you for welcoming me, and it's an absolute privilege to be on your show today. Vision, it's phenomenal. How we see life, you know. I'm going to just put a little précis. You know how eye tests are done in dark rooms or semi-illuminated, fixed gaze, black and white charts at a fixed distance, 3 meters or 6 meters or 20 feet away, etc. And there's no depth, there's no color, there's no space, there's no movement. You block one eye, you block the other. And you go through all the various parts of the process where they ask, is it better one, is it better two? And you're looking through a phoropter head and through dark tunnels, all peripheral space has been locked out. Yeah, this is the tradition. And the thing is, traditions tend to hang around a long time. And even though there's a lot of technology to it, but I asked the simple question, is this really what your vision is related to that? Or is it a lot bigger? Because I want to show you something. My office, as I'm showing you around, you really see the big picture, as you can see. And as you look around, and you can see it within here, there's open space, there's a lot of place for everybody. So people are not overwhelmed by what they're looking at, but rather they can see everything that is needed to be seen. Real depth, real color, real space, real movement as they stand up, go around, do things, etc. So, Celeste, please ask your questions because, look, we can start at any position. You know what I mean. It's I've been doing this for 30 years now, which even is a blink of an eye. It's gone that fast, but in that period of time, look, I graduated in 1993 as an optometrist, and yeah, I've seen a lot of things in a very short period of time. 30 years in the scheme of time is just a blink. But what the blessing, as I say, has been is to be able to observe things in ways that are not just in stationary phase, but also in dynamic. And the dynamic is movement, and that movement is such that we tend to, in our dualistic way of science, by and large, look at things as that's potential, or that's kinetic, or that's distance, or that's near, or that's detail, or that's perspective. But really, they're a continuum, as you said earlier on before, time, space, time continuum. These are a continuum of each other, and they're not just in individual parts either, but rather they're the whole lot as one. And this is what quantum physics, which was basically grounded by Max Planck and others, Niels Bohr, Einstein was fighting it all the time, but it doesn't matter. They all entertained each other with understanding, and they were looking at purely from a physics perspective. And that's fair enough. These were top people. They went to the Solvay conference. They presented papers that changed things in the world as we see it today. But it was all basically based, by and large, on numerification, on quantities. And that's fair enough. Science is based on measurement, which is true. But by and large, we've separated qualities from quantities. In other words, what's the quality of this? Do you see it comfortably? Do you see it with ease? Can we put numbers to them? Very hard, really, because they are higher orders of possibility and perception that you really can't put a numbers to. But it's been fascinating over the last 30 years. I've been on a quest of how do we put a lot of things together. And I've ended up with a mnemonic called QQQ, quantity, quality, quantum. Now, quantum in the sense of how I learned, look, I did some work at IQUIM, International Quantum University of Integrated Medicine in Hawaii. And I met a lot of people who are high in their fields, Amit Goswami, Joe Dispenza, Lynn McTaggart, a whole bunch of people. Spoke to them. They'd never heard of me. That's fine because I'm down under, but that's all right. We're coming up top very soon. What I want to be, I'm not trying to be funny or facetious or anything, but I guess I've been given the blessing to be quietly doing things to develop processes whereby we can put quality and quantity together to get quantum. And quantum can conjure up so many different things, but quantum is basically a unit of light. And quantum, if you express it even further, in our reductionist way of, particularly in the last 20th century, 21st century, which we've entered now, the last 20 years or so, we need to bring this more together in a coherence. In a coherence where quantity and quality can match each other in both in number and in its expression of being. And this is the word that I want to bring forward. The new book, which I'm going to publish this year, and finally Celeste, it's going to be published this year.
That's wonderful.
Which is wonderful, its running title is called From Seeing to Being. And we've been all taught how to do things, and we have all our different ways of doing things, whether you're a plumber, whether you're a garbage collector, neurosurgeon, it doesn't matter. And that's all very good because everybody has these different things which are going to help society by and large, if they're done correctly, to function correctly. But when you say hello to people, who are you? They usually tell you what they do. They don't tell you who they are. And how do you define being? This is a very interesting question. And being is really not just in space-time, but in time-space. We can look at things scripturally in such an amazing way, the Alpha and the Omega, which is in the Greek, or the Aleph and the Tav, which is in the Hebrew. And it's interesting where the Aleph and the Tav come together, even though it's not pronounced generally, in Hebraic circles, eth. But that is basically the beginning and the end. Yes. But that might sound very reductionist, but in time, space. So let's take space time first of all. You have height, breadth, width, linear time, watch, entropy. Everything's in a state of breakdown. It's been created but breaking down, created and breaking down. Now let's go the other way. Time, space, what I call coherence. Time, space, coherence. Multidimensional, interdimensional, non-local. Benevolent directive. It has to have benevolent directive because it's not having to, but it just is, and it just does. Why? Because everything is in total harmony. Why is it in total harmony? There's the the LOV word, which is love. It's the highest frequency of being. And light and love and life, they all start with the L's. I know that. But at the same time, it's how they come together. And we can look at various bits and pieces, from the anatomical perspective, from the construction perspective of bridges, and from the electrodynamics of what we're doing with IT now, etc., etc. But more of these fields, albeit that they're trying to bring things together, but they're bringing things together in a very linear way. When we're talking about time, time is not time in the linear sense only, even though we have been so conditioned in this 3D space-time. And look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's how we find ourselves in this present moment. But when we look at it from a quantum perspective, or even from a scalar perspective, which Nikola Tesla looked at, time waves, scalar waves, longitudinal waves. I'm going to show you something very, very simple. If we think of a timeline where it goes across from past to present to future, as that goes along, it's very linear. Now, if we take that timeline and invert it to a vertical plane, past, present, future become one. It seems almost impossible to the natural mind to think about that. But in actual fact, what that is, and I say is, the past, the present, the future are all one. So we cannot, for example, define God. It's ludicrous because we're limiting. This is unlimited. But when a scripture says he knows the end from the beginning from the end, that's totally true. Because in that sense of the non-locality, which we can't put into geographical space or defined by a number of what time that happened or what have you, it is the absolute quality of being. It just is. And in our realm of what we do, I remember as a kid at school, the teacher would talk, no, we've got potential energy, we've got kinetic energy. And I'd put my hand up and say, hey, what's in between? No, there's just potential energy and just kinetic energy. Really? What's the connector? No one could tell me. But over the years, and particularly over these last 20, 30 years, I've been able to get glimpses of what the connector is. Now, I'm going to give you an analogy. You know, we're in these three dimensions, or we could talk about the fourth dimension, linear time, or we could go up higher, fifth, sixth, seventh, etc. And it's like Nachmanides actually showed in the Old Testament, you know, he was a Jewish historian, that there were 11 levels of dimension. And the first four, so to speak, were as what we experienced, but the others were so bound up, not bound up in a negative way, but in such a manner, those things which were not seen were holding those things which were seen. So the whole thing about time is that it is an infinite well of potentiality and possibility and directive when we tap into it correctly. And the analogy which I want to say is that in a way, we are a little bit like flatlanders.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, it's like if you put a sphere through a plain sheet of paper, and all of a sudden a dot turns up, then a circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then gets smaller and smaller and smaller. We don't see the sphere in toto. We see just that little ring getting bigger and bigger and then getting smaller and smaller. That's the loose analogy that I want to give. But we're coming to a point of threshold where our sense of who we are, not what we do, but who we are, is going to change. And whether people like it or not, we are in a state of flux. And this enters me into the next part, the potential, the kinetic.
So can I ask a question?
Please.
So as I'm listening to you, would that be like in the scriptures, Jacob's ladder, and the angels were going up and down the ladder? Is that kind of one of the connectors in scripture that we can see?
That is one of the connectors in scriptures. But before I go into that, I'd like to
Okay.
just no, but it's an amazing connector. But the thing is, what we realize, and in the scripture, it talks about the breath and the breath of life. We have reduced it down to the lowest vibration. We breathe in, we breathe out, etc. And that's valid. That's on one level, and that's on the physical level. But what about the higher levels of being? And what I've been discovering is that when I'm looking at a person who comes to me, and as I started off with the typical eye test, we do not relegate a person just to a chair, fixed gaze position, etc. What I've said, and then block and do that and say, right, here's your prescription, you'll get used to it, etc. We actually work the two eyes as one vision, but not in relationship to that, just that one vision, but how it affects the balance, the posture, the movement, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotion, and the very spirituality. Now, spirituality can mean different things to different people, which is understandable, but if we look at its etymology, we can look at the word spiritus from the Latin, which means breath. Oh yeah, it's just breath. Well, I'm going to tell you something which is totally phenomenal. When I had people to stand up after I've done initial works on getting a baseline of what lens or are needed, then I ask the person to breathe in and breathe out. It's as simple as that. And based on that, I ask them, is your breath easier, lighter, more fluid, more relaxed, etc., either breathing in or breathing out? The majority of people will tell me one or the other, as whether it's in breath or out breath. But based on how light comes in to the eyes, how it affects the vestibular system, how it goes through the brain, the cerebrum, goes right down through all the various tracts into the brain stem, the medulla oblongata, and all the rest. Everything is a one unit. So the work which we're doing is starting with the eyes, which are important because we all have to see. We've got to be able to delineate what's this to that and put it in perspective of how this is to that, etc. The whole point being is with this is that once we start getting the breath more coherent, so if I ask a person to stand up and I ask them, okay, breathe in, breathe out, and they're breathing in, breathing out, and for hypothetical case, they're breathing better out, then I get them to do a certain movement where what I call a holokinetic potentiator, holos meaning entire, complete, kinetic meaning movement, but that movement is in coherence of the stillness of the being, in other words, the structure, and its movement. Is it flowing more as we breathe in, breathe out here, or is it flowing more as we breathe in, breathe out there? And invariably, if I ask it in the right way, we're going to get the right answer. And what that tells me, then I can insert a particular prism, and I'm going to show you what I mean. This isn't not the prism that I put in, but as you can see how that changes position in space. It doesn't, it relocates space, and it also affects time. And space and time are a continuum of each other, but if they're brought into the right coherence, time, space, coherence, right time, right place, click. The next thing you know, if this is given in the right way, and that's too big, but say for example, I put one of these little prisms into the test frame, etc., and it's the right one, all of a sudden the breath is normal. All of a sudden the in-breath, the out-breath just come in and out. Now, what's breath got to do with vision? Everything's connected. It's not just the hip bone connected to the thigh bone, but we have the physicality of our body, but we also have the energy field within and around us. Now, medicine by and large, they do amazing things, that's obvious, in the physical realm. But by and large, their understanding of the energetic fields is quite minimal, or it's just neglected. Now, if we consider that we are made in the image and likeness of God, God is light, God is love, okay? If light is particle wave, not in duality, but in complementarity, what does that mean? The particle is the cornerstone. The wave is its energetic. If we have a superposition of that, that's just physics. That's mass and field. If we have a quantum position of that, that's consciousness. That is going to form with benevolent directive into who we may be at present, human beings, but the trees, the earth, all the various structures which are so-called non-man-made, but yet we have been given the ability to think, to understand things, to create different aspects. But what I want to say with this is we are beings of light. And what is light? It is particle wave, as I just said. But if that structure, that is solid light, but yet it is flexible, and yet it moves, and yet at the same time, these things which we can measure on one level to say, okay, what's our heart rate? What's our diastolic, systolic blood pressure? What's our power, etc. But what is the quality? Does that person feel good? Do they sense that I'm at ease? Do they sense, am I in a state of relaxation? And look at our world today. I wouldn't say many people are in a relaxed state.
So can I ask a question? So I'm listening to what you're saying, and what I'm thinking is,
can I finish one thing just
sure,
before your question?
sure.
So I tidy this up for you.
Okay.
So breath on one level, thank you, Celeste, I don't mean to be interrupting, but breath on one level is in the physical sense. But when we go to the higher dimensional level, that is what I call etheric flux. Etheric flux is the it's the quality of infinite possibilities. That etheric flux is interdimensional, multidimensional, beyond dimensions. It is present. It is in the now, past, present, future, which sounds funny in the natural mind, because I've just come back to the flatlander and the sphere going in and out. It's all one. And in that flux, if we support that flux, which is basically in the scalar realm, the unseen realm, it will show us. And so one of my sayings is, where simplicity meets complexity, aha, it's like a revelation. It all unfolds into intricate simplicity. And what is intricate simplicity? It's elegance. And what is elegance? Think of the etymology of it. El, God, in Hebrew, the God's journey, full of light, full of presence, full of being. If we see that, it's not to, maybe I'm getting so excited about things which most people think, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter, because it's become so low level vibration, so utilitarian, rather than saying, just be. Now that's easy to say. Easterners may say that by and large, and we as Westerners think, oh yes, we need to go into a cave and go home. Hey, not saying that's wrong. Or we can say amen, and there's beautiful things to do, but it's a sense of presence, and presence is the dynamic of being. It is the poise of who you are. It's the potentiality. It's the quality that you can bring forward. But if I put the right insertion of the quantity and its directive, its coherence with the quality, then you've got quantum. Then you've got consciousness. You've got conscientiousness. You've got conscience. You have directive. You have the ability to be in poise, dynamic, but yet still very present in being. You're in a stillness of being. And yet, the dynamic of doing moves. It flows. It's not forced. It's not pushed. It's not forcing anything. We have the expression from Star Wars, the force be with you. It sounds beautiful. But think of Newton's third law. For every action, there'll be an equal and opposite reaction. So the Jedi and the Sith will be at each other all the time. You know what I'm saying? So there's this negative and positive and negative and positive. There's this dipole going on this way. But if the flow be within you, now I'm coming to this point. Mass by acceleration is force. Mass by velocity is flow, and it's a continuum. That's Newton's first law. An object that keeps moving, and if it's not stopped, just keeps going. And if we can get that state of being in that flow, as what Lao Tzu would say, 3000 BC, the Wu Wei, effortless flow. Now, we can't force ourselves to do it, because the moment we say, oh, I'm going to do, that's ego. But if we presence ourselves in it, that's being. And in that being, we start to expand ourselves. We start to feel more relaxed. The blood pressure comes down. The pulse pressure comes down. The breath becomes deeper. the sense of the shoulders drop. Oh, my head feels much more open. I'm not fuzzy-headed, etc., etc. And there's every different type of thinking and every different type of feeling, and they all start to converge and become coherent with each other. Celeste, sorry, I don't mean to be roundabout, but there's so much in this. But anyway, please ask a question.
Okay, I'm going to ask two questions. You and I know what coherence is, but for our audience that maybe have never heard the word coherence, could you please tell us what it is?
Coherence is harmony, really. And that is the interface of everything that comes together in a unity. And if we talk, people might think this is religious, but it's not. It's spiritual. Spiritus, as I said, is the word for breath. And the breath, if that flux is just coherent, just at ease, it flows, it's present, it's just in its stillness of being, but yet dynamic of doing. If that coherence is there, it's not just there, but in consciousness amongst all of us, it's very present. Now, we can see this very well in the sporting field, for example. Like if you have Usain Bolt and he's running his 100 meters. If you see how he runs, that torso is totally still, but his arms and legs are in absolute harmonization. And that torso is both a solid foundation from whence to springboard forward, but yet is a shock absorber at the same time. Not only do you see it, if the harmony, if the coherence is there, you're going to feel it. Or it's like when I saw Annie Sophie Mutter, who's a famous German violinist from Rheinfeld in Germany, because I lived in Basel. It's part of my background in Switzerland. I saw her play, and how she played that violin in that Tchaikovsky violin concerto in D. It was just incredible. It wasn't just that she had the technical ability, but the feeling. Yeah. And what is feeling? That is the emotion and the word that come together, and it flows. Not only was she playing, but she was inviting the whole audience to be with her. She was the proponent of it, but at the same time, she was inviting us to be with her in it. Everyone was part of that event. This is coherence. As an example, another example, from music to sport, or even in family life, how a mother will talk to a child, or a father will talk to his son or daughter, if it's done with love. But love is not the way how we just limit it to the typical things of what is put through on the media. Love is the presence of just being present, but not just present, not pushing, not forcing, not vaunting, not stealth, not tricking. It is not magic, it is majestic. It is present with each other. And it's the quest in this work is to bring a coherence amongst each other. Even a conversation which I'm having with you, and also the audience. If I'm connecting coherently with you, then you will be feeling uplifted right now. Not because I know, you don't, I'll tell you. We all know. We are all part of this. It's an invitation. It's like what we can say in the quantum world, quantum entanglement. What does that mean? Well, Einstein first coined this as spooky action at a distance, but he was looking in celestial bodies, Celeste.
Yeah.
But in as much that macro, micro, whatever crow, it doesn't matter. What matters, as I think this is really funny. You remember the penguins from Madagascar? Progress report. Just smile and wave, boys. And I know it sounds ludicrous that this eccentric guy is talking the way I'm talking, but we're so caught up with the physical, the matter. What about the waves? And why aren't we happy? Not happy in the superficial, that sense, but more in terms of the joy, the depth of being, because that is harmony. That is coherence. We're taught how to think, cognitive processes, and that's great. And we can learn things, and we can become well adept in our various respective fields, whatever we do. But are we taught how to use our heart? We've got the IQs. What about the EQs? What about the emotional quotient? What about, you know, you know, oh, that person's so smart. Hey, are they smart with heart? In other words, where's the humility? The humility doesn't mean you've got to wear sackcloth and ashes. It means you're just present with a person. You're in the now. You're not judging them. You're present with them. You're being with them. And when I bring this back to clinical process, people come in from all sorts of backgrounds, and boy, do I have an eclectic bunch of clientele. And I'm so delighted with it because it's expanding me. You know, do I think I know? Yes, I have an expertise. But I have this other saying, the doctor is patient as the patient teaches. In other words, doctor is the Latin word for teacher. I'm listening. And if I'm not listening, and if I'm not in coherence with that patient, I'm not hearing what he or she says. And why I say that is this because it's the very words, those very words, those qualities. And if I'm in time, if I'm in timing with them, they will know that I'm listening with them. I'm not talking at them. I'm speaking with them and I'm being one with them. So this entanglement or quantum entanglement, the light that is being shed is the consciousness that we are creating together. You know, people come because they can't see, and we can say, okay, we can return back to this. You know, we can go from an unease or a dis-ease back to an ease. But it's not just going back. What about going forward simultaneously? This is quantum thinking. You know, pro-ease, create the new. Oh, we don't think about that. No, here's the symptom. Here's the differential diagnosis. Yes, this is the treatment, fixed protocol. That's it. And people do it well. There's no doubt about that. But we're now living in a time where so much is changing. And people, by and large, don't like change. Why don't they like change? Because they're not part of that change. They're not empowered in that change. If we're empowered in that change, not the change of force and push and shove where people feel more closed in and less expanded, but if we give them the sense of flow, of connection, of harmony, of coherence, hey, I'm part of this. Yes, you are. And this is the word sovereignty that I bring forward. Most people have different thoughts about sovereignty, but I think a good way of looking at this is to say, you as the individual uphold the community, and the community upholds the individual. Then both the small and the big become coherent. You know, even though this is very loose, it was like Schumacher, the economist, think globally, act locally. You know, this came out in the 70s from the US. And in a way, it is true. Because if we think more that way, but then our whole communities, even though we have different traditions and different processes and stuff, but we're more in flow. But the way we're going at the moment, we're causing more and more friction because there's more and more force. More and more people feel that they're disenfranchised from who they are. Now we come back to seeing. It's not just the letter chart and the reading card. And can you see this? It's how you see life. What is life? What is life to you? Now everyone's got a different take on it. Praise the Lord. That's good because we're all part of the whole one. But it's how we see it. How can we communicate that with each other without forcing ourselves on each other, but supporting each other, enabling each other, seeing the best in each other? That's a different way because I'll say this, and I know this, we're living in a post-Romanesque gladiatorial system. And that system is that we've got all these big groups and they're the top corporates and they may be top, but you know, okay, we've got rid of all those people and so on. Hey, it's nothing personal. It's just business. Heck, it's personal. It's personal because people lose jobs, they can't do anything and what have you. We need the shift. We need the change. We need the coherence. We need the harmony to come back. You know, making money is one thing, but you can't eat it. you can't, you know what I'm saying? And it's an exchange of energy. There's nothing wrong with that. But the point is that how do we observe each other, and observing each other in a manner that we uphold each other, see the best in each other, rather than, oh, that person's this or that person's that. Because that negativity is a bad quality, which brings the vibration of the body, of the light, of the field, the morphogenetic field around the body, down, down, down. And people don't realize that they're grizzling or complaining all the time. You see, vision and body are all one. And even how our outlook is. I hear people, and we've gone through this COVID period still, regardless, even though it's not brought forward all the various bits and pieces. But, so many people are wounded, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. But are they seeing from the problem that is a disguised possibility by and large? Or do they still feel disenfranchised? Because the harmony, the coherence within, they're not well. Because if they were well, they'd draw out from their well of being, and they would do well. So the being and the doing become complementary in unity with each other. That's coherence. And this is the simplicity, the quest. So people come in with a whole bunch of stuff. There are things neurologically I've never seen before, but I use the principles, the simple principles. They're not simple stupid. They are simply awesome. And that simply awesome meaning that even the word awe, you know what it means in Hebrew? It's light, it's air, it's from the breath. It's there in plain sight for all of us. So even though I'm talking about different things, and for some people it might sound, what's he going on about? Everything's present with us. It's whether we want to see it or not. The unseen and the seen, or we're childlike in our being to bring forward the doing. The amazing thing is, with all of us, everyone has the potential. Everyone's amazing. All your viewers are amazing. But how many of them know they are? Now, I'm not being stupid by saying this. Some might think so from their ego. It's very limited. But if it's from their soul, which is their true being, their being, which you cannot put a physicality to or a measurement to, it is the highest quality. And if they're truly being, they're right in the now. And this is the highest quality of time. So this is the quality of time, in a way, encapsulated, that it's not about me, or it's not about you, but it's about how all of us together interact. And it's whether we're open or vulnerable is the word that's flaunted around. Vulnerability isn't just, oh, hey, I'm putting myself to be hit, but my vulnerability is to allow myself to be taught, but not taught in the way of the rigid system, but taught to have a conversation. And the conversation is one whereby there is mutual respect. And in that mutual respect, it's like when I'm working on the eyes, particularly as my conduit to work through, am I facilitating people to have respect for their body? Then all of a sudden someone has tingles going down on their side. They say, I feel different. What's going on? I'm saying you're regrouping. You're not just fixed. Because if we just go according to a fixed protocol, you're either hit miss. But if we go in open-ended protocols of non-determinism, what does that mean? Yes, the experience is there, but it's not just the experience, but it's the interaction. As I said, the doctor is patient as the patient teaches. If I've learned all this from all my clientele, how? Because if I have a rapport with them, if I have that harmony, if I have that coherence with them, they're going to tell me, not just tell me in word, but through action, gesticulation, etc. And it's being open to that. And even though there are things that are going on every day here that I've never been aware of, or I've been aware of possibly, but I couldn't articulate them in a crystalline form, but I'm shown all the time because I'm open, not closed off. I'm the guy you're there, I'm here. No, we're all here. And who's further ahead of each other? No one. We're all sharing the journey. And if we share that journey well together, boy, the bonhomie, the sense of presence, the sense of being, the sense of goodwill towards one another. Now, this is real. This isn't being airy-fairy or ooey-gooey. This is being totally open and honest with each other. That is a harmony. That is a coherence. And then when you talk about Jacob's ladder, which we asked before, the angels descending and descending, there is that flow. They weren't pushing each other. They weren't forcing each other. They were present with each other. And the dream came forward, and the revelation became one. And it was incredible. And there are various interpretations of this too, but I won't go into that. But what I want to say is that there was a oneness, and that is the true harmony, because it was shown, it was given. And this is what's so fascinating, because we've heard the word 666 brandished around, but it's in Revelation, and it's in chapter 13, verse 8, I think, or is it 8, verse 13? I can't remember. I've got a mix. But look, he who is wise, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, 636. Very interestingly, calculate. A lot of people aren't aware that the gematria of every Hebrew, every Aramaic, every Latin, every English letter, they are numbers. And if they're put together in the right way, then you can say what the numerification is. But that numerification, there's only one word that adds up to 666, and it's called paradosis. Paradosis in the Greek. And paradosis is translated as tradition. The moment I discovered that, it made me realize through scripture, by your traditions, my word is of no effect. Wow, that's a full-on expression. Now, it's nothing wrong with traditions if they don't get in the way of being the Alpha and the Omega. You see what I'm saying? It's a continuous flow. It's still present. This is a quantum thinking. If you think of God being absolutely in the state of absolute stillness, but yet at tachyon speed here, there, and everywhere all at once, it's almost impossible for the natural mind to think about that. But if you can get the unction of that, and if that unction is there in such a manner that you are more present in that paradosis, that tradition, what people think, oh, this is so important. Yeah, it can be important in their lives. But this paradosis, if there's a paradosis, what is the dosis? What's the dose? That's the lowest common denominator. But if you look at the highest uncommon denominator, the way up there, the spiritual of the downward causation, as we say in quantum field, it comes from the top going down. That means continuous giving. Giving of what? Of light, of love, of light, etc. It's pressed down, shaken together, flowing all over, as the scripture says. It's all one. And the moment we recognize that, in that absolute humility, the brilliance will shine through. We tap in then to time-space. We tap into that potentiality. I have my notebook, and I have these notebooks, and I'm continuously writing every day in these. Patients are saying things, or words are coming, or expressions are coming out. It's just incredible, as you know. Because in that respect, it's like my daughter, she's just given a couple of piano performances. She's really going forward. She's 23. She's just got herself, she's getting into the realm of classical music, but she composes and stuff. And, she says, Dad, it's given to me. I know how to do this. It's just given. Why? Because there's the presence of her in that. There's the love of her in that. There's the wanting to bring it forward. It's the wanting to bring people together. And the number of people who talk to me, oh, you must be... No, it's not about me being proud. I'm happy that she's bringing it forward because she's affecting people. It's bringing them to tears, or it's bringing them into a sense of presence. This is harmony. This is coherence. This is practicality. And this is why I look at myself more as a pracademic, practical application of not just the word, but the word becomes expressed. The talk, the TALK becomes TORQE. I've said this before. Thought to action to traction. Bang. It's there. And scripturally it says it. You know, my word shall not go out from me and come back unto me void. It shall go out and do what I purpose it to do, and it shall accomplish that which I have chosen. That is benevolent directive. That's not negative. That's totally positive.
Yeah.
That's pure harmony. Now, if we tap into that field of time-space coherence, this sounds very complex. No, it's not. I just put that tiny little prism, and all of a sudden the headache disappears. Or all of a sudden the pain in somebody's side that's been there for 16 years disappears. Now, I'm not saying that happens to everybody, but it's the right time, the right place, time-space coherence. You know, quantum physics talks about space-time, you know, or that's relativity. But the quantum relativity is that if you're in the right time, right place, you're affected, I'm affected, we're all affected. We uphold each other. We see each other better off than when we first saw each other. Our vibration is a lot higher. Yeah.
So I kind of think of that scripture that talks about there's a person in the field and then there's a lady in the house, and one is in the field and then he's taken. And, you know, when I'm thinking about it, I think, you know, a lot of people think it's the rapture, but I don't think it is. I think that it is what you were talking about, that there's at the bottom of the spectrum, there is limited. You kind of put your potential in a box, kind of, you know, when you know, you squish it in a box. But when you're taken in that verse, that you go into the domain of infinite potential, and
Infinite.
then infinite, and then you have you you reach out beyond, you love beyond, you teach beyond, you go out beyond.
It is the infinite integrator. That's what
Yes,
love is.
yes.
And people don't see that. But we pray, and prayer is light, breath, word.
Mhm.
You know, even here at times, when things aren't going well in this consult room, I just say LBW. No one knows what that means, but everyone knows, right? Pray. It's light. It illuminates. It's breath. It's the flux. Get that flux going. Get that etheric flux. And it's the word. It is the truth. It's said. It's done. It's not pushed. It's not forced. It is just gentle. But it is assertive, but not assertive. Not aggressive, but present. It's in
Mhm.
being.
Mhm.
It's supporting, not pushing. Supporting. It flows. And once that's engaged, everyone knows at that same moment. That's what's so phenomenal, Celeste. Everybody knows. It's not just the patient or the client feeling the change. You can, as the practitioner or as the perpetrator, etc. It's not limited to what's going on in this room. It's interaction with people in all so many different ways. You know, some people said, I can't understand the kindness that's coming. I said, well, you'd do that to me, wouldn't you? You know what I'm saying? It's it's that which has been given, which is within the fleshy tablets of our heart. It's that word that comes forward from the heart. It flows, or it should. And it's out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. And if you're speaking through the word, you don't have to quote scripture and lines. Just talk with people, be with people. Don't, but rather gently, gently, piano, piano at times. Other times, you know, you might feel, gee, I've got to say that word straight away. What's it mean? Shock them into reality, but not shock them to make them hurt. But, oh, didn't realize that. And I'm talking about myself too. I love it when people tell me, Michael, do you realize? Oh, I didn't know that. But when you do, if you can be humble, then you'll learn. And in that humility, the brilliance will shine through. And it is. And it's that potentiality, the infinite potentiality. And most people, and I said it as we said it before, everyone's amazing. But it's for people to wake up to that. And it's not through the ego. because the ego limits dynamic and directive. I have a saying, wake up, grow up, show up. That's presence. A lot of people are waking off, falling asleep, growing off, being parasitic of each other, and showing off. That's pretense, pretentiousness.
Yeah.
If we're present, it's not just me, it's you, all the hearers, anyone who comes across, or it's not just this interview, it's any of us as we talk with, not at, not to, but with. You know, it's phenomenal. Like, I think of, you know, words which we just take for granted, like the indefinite article a or the definite article the. You know, the, where does it come from? I think, theos, God, it's been putting that in. Or a, indefinite. But the indefinite doesn't mean it's indefinite. It means it's full of potentiality. A tree, a house. You know what I'm saying? The, or even the very word thought, theos, ought, the will of, the will of. If we're part of the one, rather than saying we pedestalize, but we're part of it, if it's within us, then behave that way. Behave, not holy joke garbage. That doesn't work. What works is that we entreat one another, we uphold each other, we're kind to each other. Sure, we can have a laugh, we can be cheeky as, but respectful too at the same time. I am. But you know, there's lots of laughs in the consultation room and there all the time. That's the fun thing about it. You know, it's playful work. And as crazy as this may be, you know, maybe this is a bit like Patch Adams in a way, but come on. Oh, the places you'll go. You've got feet in your shoes. You've got, let me read this. And people will remember this because they grew up with it. You know, it's so good. Congratulations. Today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You know, it's the childlike. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing is that because we're so burdened with all the problems and we're beset by, this is too hard, our vibration reduces and reduces and reduces. Then there becomes lack of harmony. Then it goes from ease to unease to dis-ease, and then, of course, the rest. But you know, you've got brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. How's that? It's fun. No, sure. As you go into the book, things can happen. The guy's flying off on the balloon, but then next thing is falling into places and he doesn't like it, and lots of nothing things. But it's whether or not that joy is with that harmony is within, that quality of time. Because I can tell you openly and honestly how things have happened in my life. It's not my life. It's been given to me. And that's the word. It's always given. And if we're given, and if it's the highest vibration, we know what that is. It's going to be the highest harmony. And, you know, things are given. It's like I've been toiling away for years and I've had setbacks, and we all do. And we go forward, and then this, and then that looks as though that's about, and then all of a sudden that changed. Now we've become officially a research and development company. Wow, that's big. That happened in November. You know, yes. It opens up other opportunities and possibilities. Showing up. We had the runs, we had the data was there, without saying, because if I didn't have that, no way. But if the data's there, the data's there, no problem. If it's presented, right time, right place, boom. And that is the quality. But we have to be patient. Now, patience is funny because that's being in the now. And in the scalar, past, present, and future are one. You have your experience. You're in the present now. You have your aspirations for the future. But if you're present in presence, you're at light speed. What a conundrum. You're at light speed. Because when you're patient, you're truly patient. You're vulnerable, but you're not. Because you stand in the face of infinity without flinching and have no stake in the outcome. It's like Meshach, Shadrach, Abednego. They were told, right, we're going to throw you in the furnace. Well, if we perish, so be it. But if we don't, it is our Lord who is with us. And we know the story. And that's what I'm saying. It is that quality. Now, the quantities are important. But now we need to juxtapose, not just juxtapose, but balance between. the quantity and the quality that quantum can come forward and be truly present. And it's not that you have to be a quantum physicist, even though I've done a lot of this stuff. It's not that. It's a simplicity. And even the Kabbalists look at this, and that's a different group again, but they look at the higher up in consciousness, the simpler it becomes. The simpler it becomes, because it's all coherent. It's all one. And a lot of people, because we've been caught up with all the different types of things, mortgages, rates, doing this, doing that, having to do this, those things, of those thoughts, those feelings of being able to bring presence, feeling, thought, emotion, etc. Those qualities have not been fostered. They have not been brought forward. Now, this might seem very far away from what I'm doing as far as my work is concerned. No, it's not. It's all part of the story. But if we direct it with the simple cue, as I'm placing lenses and prisms within, or even just doing a slight little touch here to affect the temporalis muscle, or to affect the actual projections of the trigeminal nerve, so that all this calms down, then all of a sudden vision comes better. It's so simple. But it's not simple stupid. It's simply awesome. And that awesomeness is there because it's been given to us to experience. And we show up, all of us.
Yeah, I just had that experience. So I'm putting this together, this as a synthetic biology webinar.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it just seemed, I'm chomping at the bit to ready to get the information out.
Fantastic.
But you have to wait for the perfect time. Not imperfect in me, but in the time that it is supposed to go forth. You have to have patience and wait, and you will know. It's like perfecting and refining. And so these past few weeks I've been perfecting and refining, not in a negative way, but just so that when it goes forth, it will be succinct, it will be powerful, it will
Easy to entreat.
easy to entreat, and people will understand and be able to understand so that they can make wise decisions for their life. But I had to be patient, and it was in his time, not my time, that I went for. So finally today I had breakthrough, and I can see it now, all the beauty of why it was being not thwarted, but it didn't go forth earlier. It wouldn't have been nearly as beautiful and light filled as it will be now. And I'm just so excited about it. So
I'm excited for you too, because I'm excited for everyone else, because that's the coherence that you're talking about.
yeah.
It's you. It's like Annie Sophie Mutter. She played a violin. Yes, you're the one who's the protagonist, but yet you bring it forward to share. It's like any prophecy as of no private interpretation, but it is there to share with all for all. It's there because of the love which you bring shedding forward. And that's the point.
Yeah.
We need to bring that highest coherence within our lives. When we're with each other, support each other, see each other, it might just be a little word. It's amazing at times. People come back to me, I see them years later. Michael, you said that word or that. I can't even remember what I said. But I was saying it not because I'm saying it. It was just because it was real. It was truth. And that truth set them free. It gave them a sense of possibility. It gave them a sense of this can actually become real. This can happen. But I think because so many people are browbeaten all the time, this fear, false evidence appearing real, it can look very real, but it's not real. But I counterpose that with faith, focused awareness, and truthful humility. You're in the now. You're present. You're childlike. That means you're innocent. You're inquisitive. You can be cheeky but you're respectful, and you're not going to put your hand up to be shot down. You're going to maneuver yourself appropriately, and you're going to be with, and you're going to support others. Do unto others as I've done unto you. And that's the thing. And because you love it. And that's what you're going to bring forward in what you're doing too, Celeste. That's beautiful. That's
So you brought a book, you brought Dr. Seuss, and I love Dr. Seuss, read it to
right.
my grandchildren and grandchildren. So now I don't know, are you familiar with Max Lucado? Um, you are special.
No.
I was just looking for it because I just shared it with my community and it's I must have taken it in the other room. It's
Yeah.
about this community of Wemmicks, and they are little carved figures, and they
Yeah.
put labels and stickers on. And there was this, I'll just paraphrase it. There's this one girl that didn't have any stars or labels or stickers on her. And this one Wemmick questioned, why doesn't this Wemmick have stickers? And it is because if you don't believe in the labels that people are putting on you, the stickers and things would go up. But she goes, why don't you go see the master craftsman that made you? And he'll describe it. So the little Wemmick went up to the master craftsman, which of course we know as God. And he goes, why? And he goes, well, I made you unique, and should be proud of who you are. You have all this potential. You'll love this book. You have all this potential, and those labels and stars only stick if you allow them to stick. It
That's
is such a good book.
that's correct. And that's what I say to a lot of people when they come, and I say, you see, there's nothing wrong with you, but wrong things have happened to you, but you're resonating in that field. That's why
Mhm.
those labels are sticking.
Yeah.
And once they realize there's nothing wrong with them, hey, I don't need this anymore. Off it goes. Clearance. Clear. See clear. And here again, here's another thing. When you're all being, you're all seeing. You see it all. Because your being is your infinite repository of possibility, of potentiality, of benevolent directive, as I say. But it's been given to me to say. I'm not, hey, I've worked this out. Nothing's been worked out. It's already there. It's already there in repository. It's whether you want to tap into it or not, whether you want it. Is the glass half full or half empty? No, it's all full. Definitely not awful. Full of awe. Full of awe. It's there. It's there in potential. It's there in reality. It's every past, present, future. I know it sounds over the top for some people, but it's those simple things that really give joy. Why do they
Mhm.
give joy? Because we're all part of it.
Mhm.
It's where we can connect. And I think what so-called sin is basically separation, disconnection. And then people wonder why isn't that working? Why isn't that working? Well, that's wrong. And let's focus on what's wrong, what's wrong. Hey, the problem is a disguised possibility. The burden is a disguised blessing. But it's bringing either oneself or other people to that knowing. And that's not evidence based. That's highly evident. That's the knowing and the being. If you can truly see that and see, okay, I've been given life, it's worth it. It is very worth it. But if that worth it is gentle, easy to entreat, doesn't push, doesn't force, it will be growing. That quiet little flame, it'll just keep
Mhm.
on being there. And when you need to flare up a bit, you do, but you drop back, but you're still there. You haven't gone finished, end of story, but rather, because that's the showing off, but rather the showing up, just be present and you build upon, hold it there. And then if you can bring that flame out to others, so they too can be a light. Very, very, very nicely. Done with accord, decorum, done with love, done with care. And that's with everything. So whether you're an eye guy or whether you're a researcher like you, it doesn't matter. What matters? Smile and wave, boys and girls. Because the waves, they're the infinite potentiality. You're smiling, then you're opening up the possibilities, and they're all there. I think some of these guys, who do all this stuff, the cartoon animation, they're smarter than academics, whether they're aware of it or not, because they bring joy. They
Mhm.
bring joy all the time. It's like Dr. Seuss. They bring joy. And I think the thing is, this is what we're having to see. The simplicity. And where that simplicity connects with complexity is what I said before. it unfolds. But then you're part of it. And the timing, and it's the qualities that come forward. Yes, the numbers will take care of themselves. They need to be looked after. We need to bean count all the particular things. But if we do that right, the qualities will form in place too. And the other way around. If the qualities are done right, the beans are going to be right. Chicken, egg, chicken, both simultaneously, all one. They're complementary in unity. And, you know, it's that simple. But
Well, I
it's
think
simple.
there's great joy in taking the candle of light in you and passing the flame. Like, there's many different things that you can light one another's candle. I'm sure you've been at some. And just to light the power of lighting someone else's candle. And there's that contrast between the darkness around, but then that you're lighting, and that when you bestow joy and love and grace and mercy, it doesn't diminish anything in you, but you are yet, it grows. It is imparting into someone else, and
That's
it's
right,
beautiful.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Couldn't be said better. Couldn't be said better.
So you
Because
mentioned in your email, and now you've got me intrigued. So you're going to have to go on a little rabbit trail, however deep you want to go. How does holography fit in this?
holography is basically the coherence of light. We
Okay.
are living. We are basically living laser, but we have reduced laser to physics, light amplitude, stimulation, emission rate, etc. But the point is, but it's not just the point, it's the space
Hmm.
simultaneously. It's location, non-location, non-locality. Are they in coherence with each other? Now, if we're in the quantum still point, that quantum still point is the convergence of everything. It's the stillness of being, but yet the dynamic of doing. But it's when we're in that zone, being in the zone as an expression,
Hmm.
that's where light can have its infinite potentiality to express itself. It then becomes emergent. If it becomes emergent, different things happen. It's like the typical things that happen. Um, uh, typical things that happen are that the discord is because the light within us, both in the physical and also in the energetic, are mismatched. I'm seeing that once we bring that field together with the body, the whole system shifts.
Hmm.
And I can tell you based on, and it crystallized in me about 3 years ago. I'm thinking, I'm actually focusing the field. And then I
Hmm.
came across a saying of Albert Einstein: the sole governing agency is the field that affects the particle, relativity. And I say, well, if you can focus the field, you can focus the body. That's 100 years later. But in that focusing of the body, that's qualitativity. The qualities all start coming together because the field all of a sudden becomes coherent with the actual DNA. The DNA is not just the building blocks, the 4 building blocks, nucleotides. They're actually the DNA itself, and its double helix strand,
Hmm.
etc., is also an antenna. It's a scalar antenna
Yes.
of both reception and also its transmission.
Yes.
And if all of that, if that field, at that interface between field and physical start occurring, then you're going to get unity. So you can switch on telomerase so that your genes don't come down. Look, we're all going to pass. But what I'm saying is the quality of your life, basically, it's not that you're focused on one particular thing. You focus life. You focus being. Because in that being, it's all free. Because all of a sudden, the depth of your well starts to get bigger. You pull out more, you draw out more. You see what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
you be, you do, you do, you be, you be, you do. And it's still, but it's dynamic at the same time. And sure, things come along. They try to buffet you or they try to push you, but then simultaneously you have directives. It's just like bringing forward your talk. It's now succinct. You know how to bring it forward. You're patient. It's there. It's present. That's the point, being present in presence. And when you're present in presence, then when it's time to say, to do, wow, It comes totally through. And it is, and it does. Simple as that.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, so if you've got coherence and it's focused and it's holographic,
Yes,
then it can burst forth and become manifest in the physical. Is that what I'm hearing?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Because I'm seeing things where most people would think that's impossible.
Mhm.
And basically, it's possible. It's just they don't see it. Because what's a miracle? It's a higher order of possibility that most people wouldn't even think is possible, let alone it wouldn't even go through their thought forms, or let alone feel it. So they'll just disregard it completely, put it out there. Now, those miracles can happen to you whether you're in great distress or you're in big harmony too, at the same time. The Lord's no respecter of persons. He's going to do stuff for you. But if you're in the stream or in the flow, if you're in that continuity, look, I've seen things change neurologically in people. I've seen changes in people where, cartilages come back. I'm not saying I usurp any person's position. On the contrary, all I'm saying, if a person comes to me, I'm not going to hold back and say, look, I'm not going to say, we can do this. That I'd be foolish. I'd be arrogant to say that. I'll just say, look, let's find out if there's a possibility here or a possibility there. Or what do you think? Because they're involved in this conversation. And the conversation is one whereby it's bringing a unity of each other together. So they're upheld and I'm upheld. And it brings a greater energetic and dynamic for everyone in this world. The thing is, and I've seen stuff that most would say, how could that happen? But even as Audrey Hepburn said, impossible, put an apostrophe between the I and the M. But I also put a space between the M and the P. So I'm possible. You're possible. We're all possible. We all got all the possibilities within us right now. We have the biggest repository of time and possibility within us right now. So the world's there. Go out to it. And I wrote in the forward of this because it says this book belongs to I call them microprism visionists. Life is bright, not dark, viewing life in its fullness of potentiality. Your vision is now here. Go and have a great look in, around, above this worldly playground. What are you waiting for?
Mhm.
You know, it's whether or not you're motivated. And of course, what's depression? Depression is basal function because there's no motivation. There's no sense of, I don't belong to anything. I've had enough. I've had people, they come in, they're suicidal. They walk out, they're fine. Their families are fine then. It's not because of me. I'm just the witness to it. I'm just facilitating as I'm being facilitated at the same time. It's this interplay. It's this complementary of unity. This is the flux. This is the etheric flow. This is the breath. This is the life. This is what's given. It's all one. But we tend to box things, as you were saying before. This is what I do. I don't do anything else. And the Lord says, well, I've given you all these talents. Why don't you go out? These guys did it. They got more money. This one buried it because he thought, I haven't got anything. He didn't even see the possibility. This is the whole thing. These metaphors or spiritual metaphors, these flux metaphors, they're all there for us to learn, to grow, to see, to be. Not to put each other down, but to lift each other up as well. And if we do that, wow, wonderful open wisdom, wonderful open worship, whatever you want to do, it's the fun, it's the play. And this is a term we do, we plurk around, playful work. We plurk around. We have play. We have fun. That's what we've lost as adults by and large. We should be able to play with each other, but in the respect, to acknowledge each other as who we are as beings. Not just what our job titles are, but that we care about each other. See each other better off when we first saw each other, in that sense. Iron sharpeneth iron. You know that.
I think laughter and joy are the best medicine anyway.
Bingo.
Really, it's contagious. It's one of those things we can transmit, and it's contagious, and it's absolutely fine.
Researchers bring it forward. It sets off the vitamin D receptors, on the DNA itself. So many of the autoimmune diseases, whether it's Alzheimer's, well, Alzheimer's, there's other things, but Parkinson's and stuff like that. The more laughter there is, the more, hey, what's going on? These antioxidants are coming. That's changing. This whole cascade of enzymatic responses, etc., they're all happening. And the body feels better. It feels lighter, light and bright. A light.
Yes, it's a passionate flamingo dance.
It is.
It is. It is in your body, but it takes two to tango, as they say. So you have to be present with the coherence and with him to do that passionate dance, and then your body will respond, because it's so hard not to get caught up with two dancers that are just so passionate. You were talking about your daughter and the music. When somebody is present and involving everyone, you get caught up, you get swept away, and you forget about yourself, and you forget, oh, I have a sore knee. You just forget about it.
It's consequential,
yeah,
because there's too much good stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's amazing what little thing is a problem becomes the focus of everything. And that's the focus, because you're looking at the problem. You're not looking at, hey, there's all this other great stuff going on. What's happening? It's a big part of life. Great places you'll go. It's whether you want to go. You've gone all across the country over this last period of time. You've met so many new people, created a whole bunch of new friends. We're about to do a whole bunch of new stuff too. I've got this other guy coming along, and he knows a lot of people back stateside and stuff like that. So there could be some interesting chats, some interesting dynamics opening up. Who knows? But if we don't give it a go, we'll never know. But we have to give it a go. It's that attitude of, come on, guys, let's do it. Let's have it. Because it's there. It's given. But you have to be part of it. And it's be part of it. Not just do it. Be part of it. And the be is being present, being kind, being compassionate, but at the same time, know your P's and Q's, because, they'll shoot you out of the water if you don't know what you're talking about. That's the truth.
Yeah. So tell us about your new, so when can we expect your book? And tell us about your new research center, and where people can contact you.
Well, the book itself, I've been having so many people calling me, we want to republish your first book and stuff like that. And I just no. But one person came along just recently, for the last month or so, a couple of months ago, and it was amazing, because her husband's a quantum physicist. He's a Frenchman. He actually did his PhD at Caltech, California, and in quantum physics. But she's a publisher. It's so funny. She just knew. She said, "I just want to read your second book. That's it." So she's just read it, and so she's given me commentary about it in relationship to. She really enjoyed it. That was great. And she said, "Look, I'm going to give you commentary based as a reader and also a publisher. Now, you could just publish it the way it is. That's fine. Or what certain things that you've just gone over, which I think," that's what she said, "should be not just glossed over, but rather expanded more. And then we could get it going then. And then you can get someone like Jacob Lieberman to write the forward, etc., whom I know anyway. And then we can get it to a decent publishing house. So we're about to get together again in this coming month in April, because we're going to have a couple of interviews, and then we can seamlessly put those bits and pieces which I've glossed over, so to speak, to expand them. And then this book will go out before the end of this year. I would say around August, September. I'd say about that. So yeah, that's really good.
Well, I look forward to it. Now tell us about your new research facility.
Well, we don't have a so-called new research facility per se. Everything's a facility here. But the thing is that we're looking at the new possibilities of not just retreats, but retreats/advances, whereby people will come and stay. Now, I know various people, I'm having people now starting to tell me, oh, people up there will do that for you. Or people, it's the timing, as you said, it's the right time, right place. But that in itself will be a form of research facility, in as much that we're good water, good light, good air, good food. Excuse me. Sorry for me, but anyway, sorry, what I was wanting to say is that if we do 2, at the most 3 sessions per day on a person, we will see how the shift of the muscle, sensory, motor, and also the rest of the body changes. And then we continue on a daily basis for 5 or 6 days. Massive things will change, but this will be documented so that we can look at how we do what I call holographic reconstructions. In other words, how the holography of the light, the coherence of that light within the field, the morphogenetic field, and also within the body, the biophotonic flux in the physiology of the body, how it all connects up, and how the person feels empowered within, so that they're making the changes, they're self-regulating, they're pro-regulating, in other words, creating new possibilities of new generation of things. And I'm seeing it now. It's starting to burst at the seams. Like typical consultations are half an hour in an optometrist's office. I do an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. But the point is that, and then I run over time. But look, the thing is, it's to bring forward the emergence of these new things, and because they keep on coming, they're showing themselves, because it's a progression of process. It's like certain people come, I've seen them 5 or 6 times, but it's not that every time is different. It's accumulation of rebuilding the foundation, or bringing a new differentiation, or clearing that. And then all of a sudden on the 6th time, or it could be the 2nd or 3rd time, bang, big shifts start taking place because they've done the work. They don't know they've done the work because it's all on a subconscious level. But everything's been set up with the actual quantum spectacles, or what I call quanticles. And those quanticles, it's like, I don't need these to wear. They just energize us, that's all. But all I'm saying is that in this realm, things shift. And why do they shift? But they shift with a stability. So this is what I call positive flux. The negative flux, you're all over the shop or all over the store. If it's positive flux, you can build up to a certain point, and then the change needs to take place. Now, if a person stays, in a particular resort style type of thing, but it's not fancy, but nice, such that they're connecting more with themselves and with other people, and becoming more aware of reality in ways they don't even know, but in such a manner that it empowers them and it empowers everyone else around the place. Wow, it's win-win all the way. It's win-win all the way around. So this is a projection, but also I'm looking at creating something special as far as electronic specs are concerned. I won't go into that yet, but all I'm saying is that, yeah, there's a few irons in the fire. I'll put it in those terms, and that makes life very interesting. So there's never a dull moment.
Yes, I know.
There's never a dull moment. Sometimes you got your tongue hanging out. You think, oh, I need a break. But you know what I'm saying. But we get people starting. Look, it's like the laws of attraction. People start attracting each other appropriately. You know what I'm saying. Yeah.
So I have one final question as we wrap up, and in my mind I'm debating: do I ask? Do I ask? These days you can't necessarily ask anything,
I know.
but I mean, you and I could have the conversation, and
Yes.
actually we started that maybe a year ago when I was doing Soul Catcher.
Yeah.
So there are people that contact me that are targeted individuals.
Yeah.
Now, some of this might be psychological
Yes.
operations. Some of
Yeah.
this might actually be direct energy weapons where they actually sustain damage, like to their vestibular apparatus and or whatever part of their body. Um, could this way of thinking um, impact and actually a coherent holographic manifestation actually heal the parts of their body that have been damaged, or if they sustain ongoing hits, that they could rise above it into infinite potential and overcome this type of situation.
Well, I say it this way: the possibility is always yes.
Well, that's good because when these are heart wrenching
I know.
emails that you
I've seen,
get, and
I've seen stuff myself, and I've seen things which are, oh wow, and yeah, and I'm learning on the spot, but at the same time, I'm seeing the changes, and they're experiencing the changes, which is what more important. It's not about.
absolutely,
It's more,
absolutely,
and yeah, I look, if we're if we're all vibrating at that higher frequency, yeah, sure, we can get hit at different times. There's no doubt about that, and I have to. But I also know, no, this isn't it,
yeah,
because your directive, your intent is in alignment. Thy will be done. You talk about free will. You're free in His will.
yeah. You can
If
make the choice.
will,
Do you want to stay in the box, or do you want to
what,
rise? Yeah,
Jack out of the box, not Jack in the box. Jack out of the box. In and out. You can be left of field and right of center simultaneously. That's quantum. But at the same time, you're present and you're real. You know, you're not highfalutin. You're very present with people, and because you care about them, you love them.
yes,
Because if you don't, what's this all about? Nothing. So it's all show off. But if you're loving, it's all show up, because we're all empowering each other.
yeah,
The number of things that I learn from people every day, it's just incredible. And I just think, wow, the wisdom is there. It's all in
mhm,
us. But it's whether
mhm,
we're ready, if we're patient, or if we're humble to listen to other people. And if
yes,
we do, wow, we all see it through. It's really phenomenal. And it's a play on words and a pun, but it's not. It's real. It's totally real. And that's why Seuss and others that you mentioned before, yeah, the stickers, they don't stick anymore.
yeah,
The mud flows off. It doesn't stay. It can't. It doesn't stick.
yeah,
It can't stick. And that's the same. Because those frequencies, if those frequencies are appropriate, these people feel so much better and are much better. And you can't fake it to make it. It is or it isn't. It's as simple
yes,
as that. Because you've got to be pragmatic in the true sense. But quantum pragmatism is, it's infinite possibility. Just go get it. just be led to it and then lead. Because the leading and the led are simultaneous at the same time, which is really good.
and then once you get it, pass the flame to someone else, the light.
That's
I
it.
mean, we have to.
That's
You
it.
can't you can't hoard it. I mean, you
No, it
could hoard it, but
doesn't belong to anyone. It's
that
part of the wholeness.
yeah, you start sinking down if you hoard the
That's it.
light. Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
That's it.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
Let's keep in
Celeste, it's
touch.
always
Let's
great.
not make it as long as it was this
That'll be
time.
lovely. That'll be
Okay.
lovely. But it's great seeing you. I'd like to thank John too, and Mark, who's been sitting in too. It's great. Great to, and I hope you viewers, I hope something has come and helped you and uplifted all of you. So yeah, have a beautiful evening. I'm just starting my day to see a wonderful load of patients, which will be great.
Well, you have a blessed day. And
Thank you.
I'm actually packing suitcases and loading my car because I'm taking another 6-week trip.
Oh, cool.
This time
Sure.
to the West United States. So yeah, I leave
Oh,
Saturday.
go to
Actually,
California. Eh?
I'm headed to Canada first.
Oh, nice.
So Saturday morning I head to
BC.
Manitoba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So,
Don't get too cold.
oh well, we have snow here. So what's the
I
difference
know.
if it's Canadian or North Dakota? You know. I hope I'm going as far as Arizona.
Nice.
So I hope to get some. If it snows in Arizona,
I know.
I'm
I
not
know.
going to be very happy. It is. I mean, one time I went with my cousin to Florida and I had my bathing suit. I was so ready, I went from New York down to Florida and it was like 28 degrees. So
Yeah.
what do you do? What do you do?
What do you do? Have
Yeah.
a great time. Be blessed in it. See you a
And
lot.
you be blessed and we will touch bases in a couple months and
Look forward to it.
yeah, I
That'll be,
look forward to it too.
that's great. Have a beautiful night.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye.